Wednesday workshop for entrepreneurial speakers. What a perfect time to start. Today, hopefully, we're going to talk about that chaos and conflict communication. How do you make it easier? How do you do it? Hopefully, to have Bll Stierle on here. I know there's a big accident out on the information superhighway, so he hasn't reached our green room yet. So hopefully, we'll have him in just a few minutes here. And until then, we'll just keep on going and talk about this thing. But I just heard the door creeping open, and in walked the exceedingly perfect-headed Bll Stierle. How are you, my friend?
I am doing great, Ray. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. It can't be a better day because it's Wednesday and I got you here.
That's what we're talking about right there, man.
And look how fuzzy your picture just went there for a second. Like it zoomed out.
My camera has this adjustable little thingy deal that I've got to remember to adjust to make sure it stays on target.
You don't think that it's anything to do with the blurred background and the face, and it just kind of goes, do I focus on the face? Do I focus on the background?
Exactly, right? So how are you doing, man? How's things been going in your world?
Fantastically, fantastic. I've just, happy to be here on my couch, producing messages, having things go out, having people contact me, contact you, and just to everybody know who that is, there's the man, the guest, Bll, the Emotional Sobriety Solution, author of Happy to Have Here. So if people aren't familiar with you, Bll, what's like one or two sentences that would bring them into the Bll Stierle world?
Well, the main thing, Ray, is that what people brings me into for them to understand most about me is how do we make emotional intelligence practical so you know that you're doing it and you're able to reduce conflicts in the shortest amount of time. Imagine what it would be like to know what to say to a 4-year-old that's doing a tantrum to get their tantrum to go away within 3 sentences.
What if I think that's easier if you're not the parent of the 4-year-old?
The parent has their own stuff that gets in the way, and you're kind of like right on target with that. The parent does struggle with, what do I say to this kid? What do I do next? And that's what I teach people to do. And that's what I wrote about in the book is, what do you say next when somebody's really upset? And as being a person that facilitates high conflict and upsets as a part of my daily profession, knowing what to say next can make all the difference. I mean, Ray, you could call me names and profanity, and I'll know what to say next to both protect myself as well as be compassionate to you. And it gets a little weird, but it works. So I don't know. Why doesn't people do things that work?
So do you ever find yourself getting angry and realize, damn it, I should know this?
Actually, anger is an important emotion that tells us this next sentence. I feel angry, and you just said it. I have a judgment I should know better. And I really need some skill and mastery right now. And as soon as I say that next sentence, guess what I'm focused on? The skill and mastery part.
Got it.
Because now I'm on it. It's like, yeah, I didn't have my skill and mastery because I just got affected by my judgmental brain that was throwing all kinds of noise in my way.
And before we go too deep into this thing, I want to, I put down, if you want to contact Bll, info@bllstierle.com. If you want to come on and join Bll and I here today, right now, you can get in here at joinraylive.com. It's written right there. Come in and ask your questions. the chaos of communication conflict. That's what we're focused on here today.
Any conflict that you want to resolve right now, let's do it. Roll up our sleeves, bring your top challenges that you're facing, and let's go ahead and see if we can play some language that's going to move the conflict off so that you can get unstuck from the spot that you're in or deal with the tragic experience or situation that you are going through or been through, and it'll make a big difference. I mean, that's Ray, you and I were talking about how we could support people, and this is a really kind of a good way to start. What do we say? What do we say? What do we say next when somebody says something crappy?
And the kind of unique combination, if you came on here now, the unique combination of what you've got Bill, a man who studied this and put a lot of effort into why it works and how it works. And me, I just kind of lived it, and I trialed and errored it into, so if you ask me something like what you were talking about with the mastery and skill set,
Right.
I taught myself through a bunch of life things that if I get in there and I say, okay, is that a fact or a thought? And so that's my version of that. And I don't have the scientific reason why it works, but I know it works. And it's about finding the solution for the individual that the light bulb goes on and they go, oh, I could do that. And sometimes we have to come up with 47 different ways to say that before one person gets it, but it's not their fault. It's our fault as the communicator for not getting that point through.
I really appreciate what you're saying, because you're really framing step one of the process of being compassionate, which is observation before judgment. Observation. Is this a fact? Judgment. Is my language in a place of judgment? Observation first. There's a really famous quote by a spiritual leader, Krishnamurti, and the quote is, the highest form of intelligence, I love this quote, the highest form of intelligence is the ability to observe without judgment. Holy moly bajoli. It is one really to take on as a belief, to take on as an experience of going, yeah, I want to be able to observe without judgment. That means I got to clean up my judgmental language and reframe or replace my judgmental language. And there's some challenges to it, but it's clearly doable.
And my first thought when I heard that is, man, a lot of people in the 70s, if they heard that quote, would have went, whoa.
Right. Right. And more people are moving towards the observational place versus the judgmental place. Yet there's an entire group of people who go like, no, judge, criticize, label, diagnose, name call. It's like, oh my gosh, that crew is making the rest of the environment go like, well, why are you doing that? Yeah, and they're doing it because it actually can bring our adrenaline and cortisol levels up high enough into at least I'm fighting for something. It might not be true, but at least I feel a little bit more alive. This person makes me feel alive because they're saying things that activate my cortisol and adrenaline. They're saying things that do that. And I'm believing that because they're a partial truth or they're a reinforced truth that I'm experiencing.
And a quick note to the people that catch this: if you're seeing this after it's live, you can put your comments into Facebook, into LinkedIn, and ask your questions, and I will make sure that Bill can reach out and get the answers to you, or I can give you my opinion on that. So just go ahead and put your comments in there. They'll pop up in here, and be happy to take care of that in the future for you. So we're here. This
great.
Two bald guys trying to calm your chaos down.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Ray, any conflict in the past, I mean, is always, worth working on. I found one of the greatest lessons about this observation piece. And when I learned it, I just been married. I had a stepdaughter at the time. She was about 9, and I had a 2-year-old. Well, he was more like 3. And he was walking okay, but not really, a little bit. 3 years old. He was up and walking. And I'm sitting on the couch with my stepdaughter, and the little, my son Aiden walked by, and here's what I observed. She popped the back of his head as he walked by. He's turning around as a, 2.5, 3-year-old just wobbling, looking at him. I go like, and my sentence that came out of my mouth was instantaneous. Malia, don't hit your brother. She looked at me and said, I didn't hit him. Now, how do you do observation in that setting? I took a breath and I'm going like, what I say next is really going to be important to how she's going to experience me as her dad. Because, up to that point, I'm like new in her life. So all of a sudden I better say something that's going to work. You know what I mean is not a good sentence. Or, what are you talking about? You're lying to me. It's not a good sentence. But here's a better sentence. Malia, when I see your hand make contact with the back of Aiden's head, I feel a little worried and scared about safety and connection. Can you say, Malia, can you say safety and connection back to me? Oh, safety. We were just playing, Dad. So, Malia, you want me to hear that you were just playing? Yeah. What were you playing, Malia? Tag? Oh, you were playing tag? Malia, could you tell me a little bit more about when this tag game's going on? Because I'm watching the 3-year-old going, like, what the hell? Why did my sister hit me? Well, we were playing tag on the bed. When, Malia? Oh, about 20 minutes ago. For a 9-year-old, that is true.
Mm-hmm.
For a 3-year-old, that's a light year. 20 minutes is a light year. It's like they have no connection that game over there is transferring to the living room, and my sister just popped me in the back of the head. So now I want to use my best language. I say, gosh, Malia, I'm feeling confused, and I'm looking at Aiden, and Aiden, are you feeling confused? Aiden, do you want to play tag with Malia? He looks and goes, no. I look at Malia. Malia, I guess the game's over. She goes, okay. Notice how that observation piece, highest form of intelligence, is observing without judgment. Ray, there was only one word that was the problem in that entire sentence. And the word was hit. Hit is a judgmental word.
Okay.
Observation is when your hand made contact to the back. That is not arguable. Her hand made contact with this. And from the tag game, yeah, if you're going to play tag, you got to like touch each other. From a 9-year-old, she was telling the truth and she was playing with her brother.
See, my gut reaction in that would have been said, okay, let me rephrase that. Don't hit your stepbrother. That's actually going to get out in a loophole, right?
Oh yeah, that's great. The fun part about our conversation, Ray, too, is that humor builds its life around moments of judgment and disconnection and analysis and edges of explaining things in humorous ways. And you'll totally get a laugh out of that. Okay, let me rephrase that. It's like,
well, the thing is, so when there's conflict, what you have between people is this kind of, the chin goes down a little bit and the eyes, you back up a little bit. That's a natural, we don't know that's happening. That's a limbic response to conflict. Right. And if you can change that to laughter, what you've just done essentially, the reason that you tuck your chin is you're trying to protect the most vulnerable area of your body. In conflict, right. We got to keep our throats clear. Laughter, throw your head back. What you've just done by doing that is create instant rapport, likability, and trust. That's what laughter does. People don't realize it. It is the biggest secret weapon on the planet for business, for relationships, for using in conflict. Now, The problem is that everybody thinks that you can't do it in times of conflict because you'll be making fun of people, and it's not making fun of people. And
That's right.
it's not going bonkers and being wacky in time. It's creating that smile, creating that change of basically by creating gravity defying behavior in people.
Well, I really appreciate what humor does for us physiology wise is just absolutely positively magical. I mean, it really, really is. And the shrinking of humor right now, because people are sitting in the judgmental place, is not healthy for us as a society and as a culture, because I can find all kinds of ways to judge and criticize and label and diagnose people, all kinds of ways to do that function. It's not healthy or additive, though, when I stay in the place and drift into name calling, you are a, and then just listen to the name calling that's going on, and or the increase in volume to shout somebody down in a conflict is not a healthy way to do it. Humor, for its lane, has a place to make observational language safe.
An example of that. So the present political landscape, right? If you don't believe what I believe, you're stupid. It's kind of
Right.
what we have right there. Now, that's not healthy. However, I'm a big fan of, there's so many people out there that try to repair the past. And where there's reparation, there's blame. And they don't prepare for the future. And so what I would do to somebody that's a little afraid of going out on the limb and taking a stand or a statement or trying something they haven't tried before is that whatever you say, like it or not, when you say it in this country, just a little bit, around 50% of the people that you say it to are going to disagree with you. You know, and look at every presidential race. It's like 51-49, 53-47. You know, and that's of the people that vote, right? So the landscape is, if you go and you give these seminars or you give a presentation and you get a review of 95%, you're doing better than the president.
Yeah.
You know, and to me, that's a comforting thing.
It is a comforting thing. And a new strategy I've been recommending to reduce conflict is empathy before problem solving. Try not to address the truth part first. Try not to disprove or prove or validate or not validate. Use a moment or two of empathy towards the thing that you might think is BS, but the other person believes it's 100% true. When we empathize with their version, the conflict will start to reduce. So, a current topic right now is, was the vote just stolen or was the vote not stolen?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? That's not what the problem is. The problem is the need for trust. So now I say, so you really feel doubtful about trust? Yes. So you would like to have a system where you can trust things? Yes. It was stolen. So you'd like some trust and some integrity. Is that what you'd like? Yes. Gosh, I wonder what trust and integrity would look like. I don't know. Well, let's see if we can figure it out together. Would that be okay with you? Yes. Notice I'm not saying lie, idiot. No, I'm saying, what would it look like? Well, I want to make sure it's counted correctly. Great. So what would that look like? Get somebody else to count it than the people are counting it. Really? So you would like to volunteer for counting? Whoa, no, I don't want to volunteer for counting. Okay, great. So then we definitely got to figure out how trust is going to look like. How about if we build in some systems about counting to make sure that any anomaly is caught, and let's see which ones they are. Oh, you mean redundant systems? That might meet the need for trust. God, you and I can both agree upon that. There's one thing that's weird about the United States, which is we there's a part of the world, a part of us that really values counting and making sure the numbers are correct. And then there's a whole nother group of folks that go like, I just want to believe that I can't trust others. Now that's a little problematic. So empathy before problem solving is, and you heard me use it, which is lines that worried about trust, doubtful about clarity, anxious about truth. All of those things are empathy sentences that really help reduce the conflict that shows up between the speaker and the listener, or two people speaking. We can calm the thing down. Notice how our conversation is not funny at all right now. It's very like flat. We can make it funny. We can make it funny by adding judgment and criticism. We can make it funny by adding labels and diagnoses. You know, gosh, I wonder what kind of computer we're going to need. Maybe we need to put your brain inside that computer. Would that work for you? Now, immediately, all of a sudden, it becomes a little silly and a little funny, you know, because human beings are built to have a joyous experience where most of their needs are being met. We're kind of built that way. Yet our language is the thing that is driving us off the rails. Does that make some sense to you?
And that's one of the kind of misunderstood elements of humor is that when most people think of humor, they look at it as a downward plane where I'm talking down to you or I'm making fun of you, where really what most humor is, the best definition ever comes from the Humor Research Lab in Boulder, Colorado, or HURL, as they call themselves.
Very funny.
Yeah, it's a benign violation of a norm that surprises you. So it can't have harm in it. In order to be truly funny, it has to be a benign violation of a norm, like humor versus funny. Funny is just creating laughter. Humor is this part of it. And a perfect example of that, so you and I walk down the sidewalk and we're friends and I don't see something and I trip and I fall, right? You have a reasonable expectation to believe that during this walk, we would both stay upright. So this is surprising to you when I fall, you start to laugh. And then I get up and my arm is broken.
Yes.
Then it's not funny anymore.
That sure is not funny anymore.
The oh fuck moment happens. But what happens is when my wrist heals and it's a scar, not an open wound, then it's funny again.
That's right.
So, see, and there's celebration because
celebration. So tell me, that sentence is really valuable. Humor is a benign violation of a norm. And then what's the last part of it?
That surprises you.
That surprises you.
Yeah. So the element of humor is really the element of surprise. And most things that make people laugh around the water cooler or just having conversations, that moment of surprise comes from what I call a two-way option, which is really what is it called? It's it'll come to me. There's a really cool real name for it because somebody told it to me. But it's this moment where one word or one part of a sentence or one part of an idea, people that create the laughs follow the logic of the words, where people that laugh follow the logic of the idea. Because what you're doing to create humor is you're painting a picture and I'm leading you exactly where I want you to go. And then I'm breaking that picture in two. And it's usually based around a word that has more than one meaning.
I see that. So the logic of the words is different than the logic of the idea.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you look at it from because a lot of humor is based on problems or things that slightly annoy you. and because it's easy to create that. And I tried to explain this to one person, and I said, it's kind of like if you look at the White House lawn, it looks perfect.
Right, right,
But that's the logic of the idea.
right.
But if we really go into it, we see thousands of individual blades of grass, and they're all trimmed to the same height. But within those blades of grass are weeds.
Right. There
That
are.
are also trimmed to the same height. On those weeds are bugs. And really, to get to the root of it, you have to figure out what's bugging you, and then you can get down to the root of what's going on. So
Right.
it's when you go back to observation, right? The people that are humorous have this ability to observe in a more complete way than people that are just seeing the logic of the idea. So you're breaking a norm, right? And the norm could just be what you think. I have a friend that does a bit about Jesus's first day in school. Now, just that idea, you don't think of Jesus sitting in school as a kid, and
Right.
then he starts the roll call, and he goes, Billy here, Susie here, Jesus Christ. Well, that's Jesus Christ, but you can call me Scooter, and you don't see that. You don't see that coming. So it's just,
You don't see it coming.
you take people, and great speakers are just like great humorists or comics, is that they will take you down a path. They know exactly what you're thinking from what you say. There's no wonder in their mind. You need to know, like when you start speaking, you need to know what's in the audience's head at any point in your presentation.
Right, right. Knowing what's in the audience and the heads. I usually talk about how do I adjust either my perspective or my perception in relationship to the language that's going on, because, like you said, there's words that have different meaning. The same word has different meanings to it, and that humor piece is really important, because if the comic or the presenter knows and can walk down the path and knows what the person's thinking, they can actually help them populate that world into be a humorous world. To really, they know where they're going, and they know when the laugh is going to show up, which is really magical.
What's really interesting, and I think it kind of ties into the conflict, because what I do if I'm trying to create an area of laughter is I step there so they don't have time to think about what I'm doing, which is the exact opposite of what you do with conflict, because you sometimes have to stop that response, right? And so one of the things that I find is somehow creating phrases that I can delay my initial thoughts. Is that kind of part of the stuff you do as well, or?
Yes, I really appreciate that last sentence. Wait with don't do your initial thoughts. You got to take a half step back, and I definitely do that. The thing that I'm really enjoying to hear too in our conversation is that with humor, you said the sentence, you've got to step there so that they don't go in that direction. You've got to kind of step there first. I'm going to say something really hilarious to you right now. With empathy, it's the same thing. Being proactive with empathy also reduces and remunerates and wipes out conflict. But it's interesting that humor does the same function. If you get the person on the humor train, all of a sudden, I've always had this metaphor, just to be fun with this, is you're riding down this railroad track, and there's this one track that goes to conflict, and there's this one track that goes to peace, right? So you're on this track, and all you got to do is have one word, and it's going down the path of conflict. And then, even if it's over there, you better get ahead of it with empathy so that it flops it back over to the path of peace. You're actually providing a new train track, which is, yeah, you could do that path of conflict or you could do that path of peace. But there's this fun ride over here called the path of humor that you may want to take the thing out for a spin, and to keep from getting stuck.
It's a way of somehow meeting in the middle, right?
Right. It really is the middle track on that.
A lot of times, you can't go from conflict to peace overnight. So you need that middle road that somehow steers it from the conflict track into the peace track. And then that's really what that middle road is, to start down that path. Because if we don't have that middle road and there's two forks and you don't take either one, we crash. I just made that up.
So as I was typing that out, I was thinking in my head, it's like, well, if humor is the middle track between the road of peace and the road of conflict, I was just letting that like a swirl in my head a little bit. Because we don't have enough time to live our traumas over and over again. We don't have enough. That's called 8 years of bad therapy. I really don't want to tell that trauma moment 8 years over and over again. The way the language keeps us handcuffed, and I'm going to say that's my favorite sentence, by the way, and one of my favorite sentences. Our language keeps us handcuffed to trauma in the past. It keeps us thinking about all kinds of things that happened 100 years ago. It keeps us thinking about how can we redo and undo injustices. Meanwhile, in the current moment, our better narrative is deal with the injustices and the conflict and the horror stuff that's happening in front of us right now, rather than trying to deal with childhood traumas. Let me just say something that's like, this is really upsetting every time I think of it. When I think of Vladimir Putin and his childhood in Leningrad while it was getting bombed to bits, and I think about the picture that I saw this one picture of Leningrad completely destroyed. And then the news people didn't know they did it, but they put pictures of Mariupol right next to it. I was going like, oh, so Putin's working out his childhood issues of when he was growing up to match this one city with another city. Fantastic. Really happy to live his pathology out in the real time. And it was really unsettling when I was like, oh, so he didn't deal with his childhood trauma. So he's going to, he's going to take it out on somebody else. Great. What a wonderful world we live in. But it's unsettling to watch people not getting their past and dealing with their traumas in the past and getting them to stay there, instead of bringing those moments of physiological upset, psychological upsets, and then manifesting them in real time. Very, very, very upsetting in my world of conflict resolution. And any way to lighten it up so they just pick a different lane, anyways. So interesting little moment. It's trying to figure out how to make that, to get it to move in the past.
And to give a kind of a real life example of that in my world is, I will give advice to speakers about things that they can do to get people to see the light of their presentation, get their message more heard, more evolved. And a lot of times they'll say, well, I couldn't say that. That's not me. And I just add one word to that sentence when they say that, is I couldn't do that. That's not me. That's not me today. But the second you throw that out there, then it's part of who you are tomorrow.
I just modified it a little bit. I getting the speaker's message to have a greater impact through the use of humor, through the use of poignant language placed in the field of time. That is just absolutely energizing me. Just even thinking that that's one of your unique gifts.
Now,
Because
when you said that, my immediate thought was, wow, look at the big brain on Bill.
I mean, dude, I mean, a big part, one of the biggest challenges I think I have, because my content is pretty dense: emotional intelligence, conflict, you know, all the things that people want to avoid, trauma. People want to avoid, they don't want to talk to me about that stuff. Because, by the way, I can walk into a party and I can walk into a person, I'll say 3 sentences to them. They're crying and healing a childhood trauma that they've been carrying for years. And, that's sort of a downer when you go to a party, right? It's not, it's not what you really kind of go for. But in my world, what winds up happening is that being able to demonstrate to people that there is a path to healing, restoration, harmony, and peace in real time is a really hard thing to sell. But you and I can go out for a lunch or some coffee sometime and go like, oh yeah, how are we going to make that so it translates so that they say, gosh, we need Bill here to bring this message forward, because he does it in a way that has moments of lightness to it, moments of ease to it. There's a certain amount of jokes in his presentations, other than this really dense and rich chocolate cake that he brings us.
Well, and it's not the word jokes is not really, those are things you create to make laughter. But what you do is you take the situation you're in and you uncover the things that create the surprise about it. And that's a natural humor that people will follow. And what happens if you have a very, very dense subject, what you get caught up in is the sea of sameness. And people they tune out when everything's the same. What humor does is it adds that roller coaster to it. And what happens, and the good thing about humor is it is like an Etch-a-Sketch for your brain. You cannot laugh and be angry at the same time. You cannot have two emotions at the same time. So what humor does, it takes over all the emotions, and it's like an Etch-a-Sketch. It clears your brain. It's like a palate cleanser. So when you present, if you can have these moments of laughter and then hit the peak thing you want to say, you become twice as memorable as you are today. And so that's the placement of humor, and what you do after it is something that you really want to be able to master. Because here's the thing, Bill. Everything that's good in life happens after the laughter.
Right.
Relationships go forward after the laughter. Business relationships go forward after the laughter. Everything that's good for you happens after the laughter. Shouldn't you be able to control the laughter? If you can control the laughter, you can control all this other stuff. If you use it, and I'm hesitant to use this phrase because of what goes on in the world, but to me, people don't understand how to weaponize humor. And I don't really mean weaponize in a bad way. I mean, it's the difference between influence and manipulation. If I can use humor to get my point across and make your life better and easier, that's influence. If I'm doing it to make my life better and easier, that's manipulation. And that's the only difference between manipulation and influence, is the intent of the user.
Is the intent of the user. You're trying to balance your needs with the needs of others. I'm just going to throw it into my language. You're going to balance your needs with the needs of others, where manipulation is my needs at the expense of the needs of others.
Yeah.
So that's in in Bll Stierle's magic world is that I treat feelings as indicators, like they're an oil light on the car.
Okay.
Does talking to an oil light work? No. Telling a joke just to get a laugh or telling yeah, you're going to get a little blip, but you're not going to get the things. But what if the oil light is the feeling or the emotion, then the need that's causing it is the oil in the engine.
Yeah.
And I have a whole slide deck about this, which is, oh, look at this. This is where this goes up. This is where this goes down. This is what happens when your needs are being met, and there's a bunch of laughter that comes after that. Here's when your needs that are not being met, you're going to feel sad or lonely, or one of those other emotions, disheartened or depressed, and so the having and the use of emotional intelligence in humor can be a really wonderful add, I think, to the individuals that are listening to this, the executives that need to run a team that is going through a crisis, as if any businesses haven't faced that kind of noise, right? And that's that is a big part of the challenge. Is humor's got to be a part of that process of getting people through tough times.
Well, and you just made a point that I don't know if you knew you made or not, because when we're talking about getting concepts through to other people,
right?
One of the best ways that people can do that is by the use of analogies. And people aren't natural at this, but the three easiest ways to go at it is, especially in this country, pets, cars, and relationships. Because everybody in this country has had one of those three things. And if you can take an unknown thought and tie it to a known concept, the light bulb goes off. And that's another way to really get people to buy into you. That's so fantastic for leaders, is tie the change into something that's constant, and they will buy into the change quicker. They go, oh, I see, it's just like that oil light, And
yeah, I like that whole idea of the concept transferring the knowledge. I mean, the oil light. See, does talking to an oil light work? No. I can go to an audience right away.
It doesn't.
No.
What about putting the tape right over it?
The tape, right? That's called medicating emotions. That's our SSRIs. Now, you just poked a fun at the medical industry by doing that. That's exactly what it does. You're cutting the wire. All the drugs are cutting the wire between the oil light and the oil pan. That's what we're doing with medicine. Instead of expressing the feeling and need that is alive in our body right now in this moment, which would sound like this. If I'm talking about me in this moment, is I feel delighted and inspired because my need for connection and contribution is being met during this live broadcast. That's what's alive in me. That's emotional intelligence congruency. You might be feeling curious and inspired because your need for learning and contribution to your clients is being met. Engagement is high because we're trying to get people to understand how to get things to stick in their presentations and as speakers, as executives, as leaders, as people just trying to figure out their world.
One of so it's like, how do you take these intangible things,
yeah,
and make them tangible? And what people don't realize is that you can't logically explain emotions, but you can logically show an analogy that will explain the emotion. And people don't buy into or buy actual products based on logic. There's always an emotion behind it somehow. And the people that can tap into that emotion of something very logical are the people that really, really are very, very influential. They really get people to understand their message, and
They
they get
do. They
wow.
make a great impact, and they move the product or service across the thread because the emotion is moving it. The emotion is coming from a need. What is the biggest piece that's missing in our society and in our language narrative, most certainly in our schools, is the ability to functionally have a strong needs-based vocabulary. Because as soon as you know what your top 20 needs are, nobody can screw with you. If you know what your top 20 needs, Ray, the gauntlet I throw down to is, oh yeah, try to say something that's going to upset me and watch what I do with it. What I do is I'll empathize with it in order to dissolve it. If I know what my top 20 needs are, a sentence that you could here, try one of these out. Say, Bill, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't have a PhD. Say that one. That's going to work.
Bill, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't have a PhD.
Okay. So the vibration is coming. That vibration is coming. And if it hits my need for respect, then anger is going to show up next. I already know it with the sentence. I already very clear. If I allow it to hit respect, anger showing up, because my judgmental mind might say, hey, I've been doing this crap for 23 years. I don't need a damn PhD. You see how anger is already, it's just like right there. Now, same sentence. Watch how I take it differently. Say it one more time. Bill, you don't know what you're talking about. Watch what happens.
Bill, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't have a PhD.
Now, if it comes over here and hits my need for truth, because I don't, and then it leaks to my need for self-worth, watch my emotional response. Yeah, you're probably right. I had the chance to get my PhD. Gosh, I would be so well loved and liked, and I would get, if I just got my PhD, Ray would really like me. Just see how I got crushed on the other one. And I was angered on the other one.
Yeah, that was imposter syndrome in a nutshell right there.
Right. Because as soon as truth and self-worth get wired together as two different needs, oh my gosh, one small little evaluation on one of those speakers and why did that guy give me a 3 instead of that person gave me a 3 because they were in too much pain to learn from me. That's why they gave me a 3, because they were unsettled about my presentation. They were unsettled that I was kind of getting too close to home with this whole feeling and need part.
One of the sentences that I've just come up with in the last month or so about that is don't own the anger, own the feedback.
That's right. Own the feedback. The feedback is where the ability to empathize with the feedback. Did this presentation meet the needs of this person, or they were not in the place to receive the information I was providing them? That's why they gave me a 3 instead of a 5. That's why they dinged me. They dinged me because I didn't meet the need for timeliness and I went over 3 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes or something like that. They're going to ding me in that space. Okay. With that in mind, there is one more sentence that I need to hear from you. Say it one more time. Bill, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't have a PhD.
Bill, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't have a PhD.
Now, as the vibration is coming to me, this is the moment of proactive empathy right here. I reach out and grab the sentence just like I'm grabbing a bullet. And now watch my next sentence. So, Ray, could you be feeling doubtful because you really respect PhD and you have a lot of acknowledgement that you would like to give to PhD people? And I don't have one of those, so it's hard to give me respect right now. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Wow. Notice it's on your side. As soon as you said yes, you had to take on your own sentence. So now it's easy. Gosh, Ray, the way I formulate respect is by experiences. and I have 23 years experience. Could that substitute for a PhD? Would that be okay? Because I have this level of experience. Oh, yeah, I guess so. It's like I've been chopping wood over here. I don't have to write a paper about it over here because I got way more successes than that PhD person ever has. I got more wins in my column than they have it all together. See what I mean? So
what's really cool. What's really cool about that too is when you got to the most important thing, and you don't even know you did this probably. You went big head, little voice. You move closer, and you got more, and that's a great natural thing to have. And if you don't have it naturally, all you out there, remember, especially on virtual calls, don't get louder, get bigger and softer.
Bigger and softer.
Yeah.
Bigger and softer. I appreciate that, because it's also a moment of claiming what need that we're trying to go for, expression, pursuing truth about how we can take things, can make a huge difference for us as human beings. Huge difference for us.
It also says, this is what I believe.
Right.
And your dog believes it too.
Yeah, my dog definitely has certain needs that the dog wants to get met right now. Absolutely.
We got to wrap this thing up.
Absolutely.
Any final thoughts? And if you need to contact Bill, info@BllStierle.com. And it's been great having you here today, and great learning from you. Great 50 minutes we had so far.
Listen, Ray, anytime you want to get on it and shoot this stuff around, if we want to work over some specific issues that speakers and others are going through, because I think that, and I just enjoy this experience of contributing a lot. And I do have a set of tools to really bulletproof speakers from whatever comment they hear. And that's a whole nother talk, how to bulletproof speakers from feedback from the audience and others, how to engage a higher price point. All those things we can definitely talk about. Okay.
And I'm thinking maybe there's some form of webinar that we could do about these things here that would fit very, very well.
I like it
for us. So
all right,
hearing it. So
all right, more to come on our journey. Okay, brother. Thanks a lot for doing this.
Thanks, Ollie, for coming out today. It's been great. If you got questions and you're seeing this later, pop it in the comments, and we'll get them to Bill, and I'll handle them myself. But I will see you tomorrow. Thursday is Cure Day. Bring your problems on, and we'll see if we can't solve them. All right. Awesome. Have a great one.
Thanks, everybody.